Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I edit an ethereal environmental portrait in Lightroom. So I thought I would do my intro out here in my beautiful secret forest in the amazing Macedon Ranges. It's a wee bit cold today, hence my puffy jacket, and it's raining intermittently, so I'll be quick just in case. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, you may know that I have two photography accounts, one for my portraits and the other for nature photography. I seriously just love both genres, so I found a way to bring the two together and capture both. An environmental portrait typically is a portrait taken of a person in an environment that tells a story. So in my case, I look for a natural yet magical location and attempt to create a dreamy, surreal image around this. If you'd like to learn more about my photography with occasional pearls of wisdom thrown in, please consider subscribing, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up below. Also, if you have any questions about editing in Lightroom, or if you'd like to see me edit any of my other images, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you for sure about that. With this image of Lily today, firstly I have to say editing is only one part of the final outcome. There are so many other factors you need to consider that encompass the final image. I'll make a video actually about how I photograph my ethereal environmental portrait shortly, so look out for that. I will say one thing that is important for today's edit though. I photograph at a very wide aperture typically, so let's say 2.8 to 1.4. That means that the subject or model is going to be soft, so the focus has to be of the utmost importance. I focus on the eyes and everything else falls away softly. It's important to remember this when editing, as heavy editing can look fake and excessive. So I'm going to show you a couple of my little editing tips I've learned after much practice and patience, so I hope you'll stick around for that. So let's get started. Okay, so here I am in Lightroom. Oh, first time I've done this, so it's exciting. So there's that image there, and there was this one that I actually really loved of Lily. So, but I want to edit this one because that's the one I've done before and it's on Instagram. I don't know, I just love it. I love her eyes that are closed. Also just love this hair wisping across here and the breeze blowing at just that right time, this softness. And yeah, her eyes are just, the lashes are in focus. So just a couple of things that, oh, let's get rid of that one. Okay, so starting again. So here we are in Lightroom. I have this image here, but her eyes are open, and I'm just actually thinking it just doesn't have so much emotion as this one that tells a story for me. So the first thing I will look at is I'm going to the develop module, so I press D for develop. Yes, so there we are. So first thing I always look at is the exposure. So I look at the histogram usually, but I know there's a lot of darkness here and I quite like that for now, so I'm going to leave that. I would always go down to chromatic aberration, enable the profile correction. For my Sony I use the 24 to 70 2.8 millimeter lens here. So yeah, at 2.8, no, at 3.2, so nice and soft. So okay, what would I do? I'm looking at these little spots here and I'm finding them just a little bit distracting. So what I do with that, the clone stamp, I would just they're only ever so tiny, so they're not really going to be that noticeable. I do love Photoshop's clone tool, but I think that's cleaned that up very nicely. And there's just a couple of little things there I'll just try and get rid of as well. So I'm just going to press the left bracket key and make that smaller and just see what that does. And I think that will work. And this little one here, just take that away. And press return. Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad, not so great. Try again, let's try again. Let's try the heal tool, and we will just see if that does any better. Hopefully. If not, I'll just leave it because that's not the point of today's. No, Lightroom doesn't want to deal with that. That's okay. So I would look at Lily's very young, her skin's beautiful. Just a little bit of a shadow here, so I would just lift that ever so slightly with just a light brush and take the clarity. So if I click on the effect button up here and double click, everything goes back to 0. So I'm just going to take the clarity down just a little, and the shadows just a tiny little up there, and make the brush smaller. And I'm just going to brush on that area. Let's see what I know. We need to actually bring. I'm going to bring the exposure up. Let's see. There, not too bad. And press OK. So before, after. No, that's looking better. I feel like it's a little too soft in some areas, so I'm just going to lift the contrast ever so slightly. And up to about 5. Before, after. Just a little looks a little cleaner, a little bit more zappy. So what else do I want to do? Red. I feel like there's not a lot of colour in her skin, but the fingertips are quite red, so I'll go down to the hue saturation and I'll just, in saturation here, I'll just take the saturation down ever so slightly. There. And I'm just going to bring up the orange. That might just bring out some more of this here and the warmth that I'm seeing here. So that's that. So I'm just going to loop view, press L, and that will get rid of everything, so you can see your photograph as it stands without any distractions. So back to press L and everything comes back again. So what else would I like to do? I would like to, I think I want to just warm it up a touch. So I'm just going to take the white balance temperature up just to give it some warmth there. About there, I think is, nope, too much. And also, I'm looking at it, I feel like this headpiece is a little bit too green, so I'll go better down to the greens, to the saturation, and green. Take that down, let's see how that looks. Gives it more of an ethereal feel. Take it right down, let's see. Before, after, yes, I like that. And I'm going to bring up blue, because there's a lot of blue in her grey outfit, it's silver actually, and yeah, some aqua. I think I'll give it some aqua, just, I'm liking this aqua colour in here, and it looks great with that orange there. So that's that. And now I think I'm just going to take the whole saturation down, the global saturation, just a little bit more. So, yeah, not too much, just a touch. So now I'm going to add a sun flare up in here where it's orange and there's light coming onto here. So how I would do that is, oh yes, with this circular, I can't remember what that's called actually, filter, radial filter, and nice and big, and I'm just going to turn it up, take the central part of that out of the frame and just extend it down a bit more. There we go. Okay, so I just want to increase the exposure of that ever so slightly. Actually, I'm going to change this. I'm going to turn off all the effects, add some exposure, quite a bit. Let's brighten it up. And then I warm that up. I'm warming the inner part of that circle. I'm finding, let's see, the feather. Feather it right off. Feather it right off and then bring it back so that you can see the effect. So feather right off. I find it too concentrated in this little area here. So I'm going to bring the feather back down until I'm happy with it. Back up. About there. Let's see. Also, I'm thinking I'm going to add another one. So, a new one. I'm going to get a new radial filter. So that one's still there. You can see the little dot there. So I'm going to just get another one through here. Same effect off, everything off. Double click. Lift up that exposure ever so slightly. I think I might drag it down and warm up that whole area. So another little trick that I have is within this radial filter, I use dehaze, and it adds a beautiful blur. If I take it right down, you can see. So I'm just going to do that ever so slightly. There, it adds a nice sort of foggy haze, but I will actually do the first one more so. So I'm back up in this circular, this radial filter area. So I'm going to bring the dehaze down in that. So you'll see that take effect, not too much. There. So let's see what that looks like before and after. We've just added a little bit more depth. So now I'm feeling like it's a little bit blackish, darkish on the sides, especially this side. So what I'll do is I'll just add a little radial filter and just turn it this way and everything off effect, double click to turn everything off, and then I'm just going to lift that exposure ever so slightly. That's very nice on that hair, so I'm quite liking that. So I'm going to drag that out, extend it out to there and warm it up. Warm that up and a little bit over it, too much exposure. I'll just take that out. Don't really want it. A little on the shoulder would be nice just to brighten up that area. Okay, I think I like that. I'll just move that ever so slightly. Let's see how that looks. So here we have before and after. Before and after. So what else would I think it needs? I would sometimes use presets, but I'm learning to tweak my own edits in Lightroom, so I won't use a preset here because that's not what this is about today. I think I'm going to play around with the greens, the luminance. I will just play around with that. The brightness of the greens, too bright. I think I'm going to take that aqua back down because I'm not so happy with it. That's in these leaves just here. And that's that. So I'm liking that before, after. I still feel like it's a little saturated. Let's actually go back to the saturation, hue saturation panel. And I'm going to take that aqua down. I feel like there's a little bit too much now. Sometimes you'll do something that looks great, but once you've done all the other adjustments, it doesn't work so well. So you have to keep tweaking. That's what I find. With the contrast, I do use the tone curve, so I will just have a look at that, and I will use the, let's see, that's what I want. So I think I'm just going to put a couple of points in here and do a little slight S-curve just to get a little bit more contrast. Too much there. Just a little too much black going on in the background. So just going to lift that slightly. I feel like I like that because it's starting to look quite dreamy and matte. Because I've lifted up the blacks here, as you'll see in the, see if I lift that right up, it'll go quite matte in the background, so not so much. Quite like that matte look. So just going to bring those highlights down, up, quite like where that was at, I think. So I'm liking that, how that's looking. I think I'll just tweak that ever so slightly. Before, after. I think I want to do a little bit more around here with this light ray and the saturation, so that's good. Happy with that so far. I'm going to just warm the whole image up just ever so slightly and take the saturation down ever so slightly. So that to me is looking a little bit more interesting. Maybe not quite so. Still thinking that hand looks a bit red, so I'm going to take the reds down. Not too much because she'll look a little bit grey. So that's that. About -7. What else would I do? Brush tool. I'm going to use the brush and I'm going to double click effects to get everything back to 0, and I'm going to warm up her hair. I'm going to warm that up with the temperature. Let's start there. So with the brush tool, I'm going to press the right or left bracket tool to make the brush bigger. So in this case I'm pressing the right bracket just to make that brush a little bigger. And just going to brush that effect onto the hair, make the brush smaller. And I think you can see that's warmed that up, so I quite like that. Brush bigger. And brush that on. Brush smaller. And that's kind of warmed up the hair a little bit more, I think. Let's have a look. You could even do saturation. This gives it a bit more sunshine, light sunshine on her hair, which I like. So press return, return off, and before and after. So another little trick that I like to use is I find the point of focus and use my brush, everything off to 0, so double click effects. Clarity. So I take my clarity right up, yes, right up. It's such a minute thing, so but what I'm going to do is paint that clarity just on the lashes. If it was a flower, you could do it on a flower petal or the center of a flower, just to accentuate. It just brings a photo alive, I find, and it's not so noticeable in small details. So just there on the lash line. Ooh, just moved it. What happened there? I think we moved it. No, what happened there? Oh, okay, yes. Lightroom's delaying, playing its little game. So we start there. There, it's gone. Okay. So be careful you don't move your little toggle dot, because it'll move your adjustment as well. So leave that where it is, right there, that dot there. Okay, so we can see the overlay. There you go. So that's that. So I'll press done, return, and before, after, before, after. So that's how I'll do that. And you can see just that little bit of detail in the eyes coming through. So I'm almost done, but I think I want to just, let's see, brighten up here a little more. Maybe on this side just ever so slightly. So I'm just going to add a little radial filter on this side just to affect, just ever so slightly. And then a new one in here. And I'm going to leave it there like that. Effect off, warmth, and exposure up, not so much, and dehaze. Always go full on with your adjustment and then bring it back slowly. I find that works really well. So let's see how that's starting to look. I might just stretch him out just a little. Before, after. So I have to say I'm a little sucker for vignettes, especially in these kind of images. So I'm going to pop a vignette on and just have a look, tiny bit. So all the way and then bring it back just to about there. Kind of brings your central focus to her. And also sometimes I will do a radial filter to just focus on the subject ever so slightly. So everything off, double click effect, just bring that exposure up ever so slightly. And let's see how that looks. Quite like that. Still feel like there's a little bit too much saturation, so just going to bring that down just a little bit more. And I think that's looking good. What do you think? Please leave a comment below, let me know what you think. If you've got any ideas that you would like to try, or you think that, oh, my battery's low. Yeah, just let me know what you think. I'm just going to loop this and show you how it looks. I think that looks so much nicer than before, after, before, after. So that's my ethereal girl.